Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog podcast. Oh, probably attractive listener. This time I'm talking about the Torchwood main range, Knight of the Fendahl. Curious little creature, this one. No, seriously. And we've had some weird Torchwood stuff of late. I mean, seriously heavy-going stuff. Tell you what is nice, though. It's Gwen-centric. It's not just Gwen-centric, like the only person from Torchwood in this story is Gwen. That's it. Right. For those of you who are of a new Doctor Who bent, the Fendahl is a monster encountered by the Fourth Doctor. If memory serves, and remember I am driving and I'm prone to forgetting this sort of thing, Sarah Jane as villain. Now, I always get Mask of the Mandragora and Image of the Fendahl mixed up in my head. Your Mandragora, is the one that was filmed in Wales, in Portmeirion, home of the prisoner, where it was supposed to be, 14th, 15th century Italy. Fair enough. Yep. Your Fendahl story, that's set in, your Priory, somewhere out of the way. It's your classic Hammer horror film, remade as Doctor Who. Let's face it, Doctor Who, as always, has been, let's call it Hammer horror with gags, which for some people out there was Hammer horror. But it's Hammer horror with gags. It's stuff you already know, stories you're kind of familiar with, retold with a Doctor Who twist, which means, of course, the Doctor's going to win. There's a lot of Hammer and Amicus stories that have been used as influence on this story. So much so that you don't really want to be citing stuff like Trog and things like that in order to... And that one on the train, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of 70s horror movies. The slasher ones, the ones that didn't have a huge budget, the ones that marked the end of the great and glorious days of the British horror movie, those ones. Alright, there's a touch of the whole Quatermass, no, not Quatermass, still Nigel Keane, Stone Tapes thing. We're looking into the recordings, the information that's from the past. Right, okay. So, they're the two stories I've always mixed up. You didn't need to know any of that. And here with Torchwood, we've got new Torchwood meeting old Doctor Who monsters, villains and creatures. And of course, characters. I mean, we've got one with Joe Grant and John Barrowman, Captain Jack, coming our way within, minutes? It's not long, it's not far off at all. But here we've got Fourth Doctor monster, who was basically designed to raise the human race as cattle and then take over. A genetic marker, a creature that's lived within our race memory, sees all this ringing bells and is going to reassert itself on the human race and use us all. It's got demonic influences, it's got women painted in flowy nighties, and they are a bit scary. Now, the opening of this particular story threw me for a bit. You see, your original Fendahl story with the Fendaline, they're the little small green wibbly worms that turn up beforehand and the people get turned into those and so on. All this story really made me do was go, I really need to watch that old story again. But it opens with a film crew and it sounds for all the world as if they're making their own horror films. Except, of course, you start realising that they're a bit more realistic, a bit more niche, shall we say. snuff films, is, I believe, the technical term for them. Do these things actually exist or not? Well, let's not go down that particular road. It does mean that Doctor Who is for a family, and Torchwood, as always, is not. This is definitely one of those not to be played in front of the rest of the family storylines. Not that the rest of Torchwood is as family friendly as it could be. Now, the reason that what threw me is twofold. One, the choice of musical score. The music used in this entire storyline is, as all intents and purposes go, a recreation of the original Fendahl's music, which, in your Doctor Who fans' minds, places it firmly in the 70s/80s, wherever Sarah Jane's actually from. It's the 70s, yep. I like to think that she was merely asserting herself in her own mind, or that unit took place in an alternative parallel universe. See absolutely everything I've ever discussed. For more notes on that one. Does Doctor Who take place in our universe? I like to think not. I like to think that our universe is the only universe in the entire parallel dimensions where we are completely alone. Now that is scary. Moving on. You do know the Paul Brian Cox thing, do you? Where he's said that the maths has been redone, and yeah, there is life in the universe because the universe is gigantic, but the majority of the life out there is just slime. It's slime on its way to becoming something else, possibly. But the idea that there is a creature as complicated as any of the life on Earth, regardless of the human race, is incredibly rare. You're looking at, and this is involving the maths, one life form per galaxy that's like us. So, what we might as well behave as if we are the only creatures in the universe, because basically we kind of are. Let's act as though we're alone. Let's act as though we are the pinnacle of all of the universe. And act accordingly. Let's act like grown-ups. Let's get along. Let's stop squabbling. Sorry, we've been down this road before. You don't need to hear it again. Just remember, if we do get round to voting again, please think. Engage your actual brain. Don't vote with your heart. Vote with your mind. But you already know all this. Sorry. My politics seem to be seeping out everywhere. I just can't help it anymore. It's awful. Please sign the petition. Please, just sign it. For me. For you. For everyone. Sorry, I've distracted you again. Getting back to Night of the Fendahl. Right, so somebody is recreating the events of Image of the Fendahl. The reason and the motivation behind why Gwen's there is part of the narrative. Won't be spoiling that. How the storyline comes to unfold, again, spoilers. Again, I don't want to spoil it. But Gwen turns up in the opening pre-cycle sequence saying that she is your victim. Now, what threw me as well of the choice is the music, which was brilliant. I mean, it's so well executed, right? It's magical. Takes you straight back to that 70s feel. It does feel very much like it. It's that on the set, some of the things that are being discussed are the hodgepodge way that people used to make films in the 70s. Perfectly acceptable, yes? But also, someone's using an ordinary typewriter. The sound's being recorded differently, separately, on a different track, which usually means they're not using videotape, depending on what you're doing. So they're using film, right, which is odd. I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there, and I should be one of them, who records sound on a separate track, which then syncs up, and so on. But they're technical things. It feels like the setup is of the 70s slasher films that they're kind of recreating. Perhaps they're trying to stick with authenticity, but I just don't know. It's definitely been written by somebody who's either hung around on a set or knows people who has and have actually asked questions. It's a great little mini story, and some of the nice sort of geeky moments where somebody's going, no, let's recreate the Hammer one. They go, no, it's Amicus, and so on. Tiny little moments like that. Of course, we are the geeks. We are the people that this is aimed for, and it is great. So, feel free to listen to this one, and I won't reveal any more stories. Yes, there's the whole Torchwood ickiness, but that's what you've come to expect from these sort of stories, and that's fine. This isn't as clear-cut as it once was in Doctor Who, but that's not a problem. It's a welcome return back to the monthly range. I've enjoyed this, as I've enjoyed the others, and as far as I'm concerned, Torchwood is so much better on audio than it ever was on TV. And with that, I'll fade away and let you hear the trailer for yourself. So until next time, be seeing you.
Would you like to introduce yourself to the camera?
Hello, Gwen Cooper. I'm your victim.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions, Torchwood, Night of the Fendahl.
We have lived for one thing and one thing alone. We are mere cattle, morsels for our masters.
This is the place. The actual place. This is where it happened all those years ago. And this is the altar. This is where I'm sacrificed.
You are a glorious gift as we summon death itself. It's been around forever.
Say its name. Say its name. The Fendahl.
Big Finish. We love stories.
That was the Doctor Who Tin Dog podcast, available on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, RSS, Vimeo, and across the internet. Doctor Who and its associated properties are all copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Why not become a supporter by visiting patreon.com/tindog. Contact the show on tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.